Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with a video on I thought I would win in 15 moves. It's a quote from the black player in the game of Badur Jobava against Niels Grandelius from round 4 of the FIDE Grand Swiss 2021. A very important tournament with spots for the candidates tournament up for grabs in both the Open and Women's World Championship cycle. And we're going to look at this game in this video, Jobava against Grandelius. But before I'll show you the game, let's listen to Niels Grandelius in his interview after the game.
It was incredibly messy, the whole game, and I'm just trying to, get some grip of what happened, but it's difficult to say. He played as he usually does, very creatively in the opening. He took some quite big risks. He was left with the king in the center. I sacrificed a few pawns for initiative, and I think we both had a feeling that it must be very, very promising for me. And I thought I was more or less going to win in 15 moves or 20 moves. But then he started to defend incredibly well, and he found a lot of very unnatural, creative moves for defense, especially this. He spent a few moves to grab my bishop on b6 with knight a4, which looked incredibly slow, but I think it's probably the only way to stay in the game at all. And it got very messy. We both got low on time. I think he actually managed to sort of get out. And then he was very, very close to a draw and blundered on on the last seconds, basically, when it was already, most of the defensive work had already been done, I think.
So you would say you were also very lucky that the game developed the way it did, that he blundered?
Yeah, definitely. In some sense, it was deserved because I think I was very close to winning earlier. But the way I play and the way the game developed, I was definitely very lucky in the end to win.
And we're going to look at that game, Jobava against Grandelius. Jobava was white and opened with the e-pawn. He is from Georgia, is 37 years old and is a very popular figure in the chess world because of his enterprising play and sparkling original personality. In Riga, he's sporting pink hair, as you can see on the thumbnail, although social media is arguing if that color really is pink. His opponent played e5, and that is Niels Grandelius, 28 years old, a grandmaster from Sweden. Knight f3, knight c6, and we have the Scotch on the board. Grandelius took, knight takes, bishop c5, putting pressure on that knight, and bishop e3 is the main move here. And Jobava played knight b3 instead, counter-attacking the bishop. Bishop dropped back, the knight got developed, and the queen went to f6, as we often see in the Scotch. And now look at this move. Jobava played f4 here, while queen e2 is the main move according to theory. f4, this move was criticized by the grandmasters in the studio, and this must have been the move that Grandelius talked about in his interview, taking big risks and having to keep the white king in the center. Grandelius played knight g to e7, bishop d2 and d5. Grandelius sacrifices a pawn to get his pieces out quickly to harass the white king, which is stuck in the middle. Jobava took the pawn, knight b4 and a check. c6 to shield the check, and those pawns were swapped. Attacking the bishop dropped back and Grandelius took. C takes and queen h4 check. As it turns out, white's king will stay in the center for the whole game. We've played 13 moves and black is already much better. As Grandelius said, he thought he would win within 15 or 20 moves. g3 to shield the check, queen went to h3, queen e2 and bishop g4 attacking the queen. Queen dropped back, offering a trade of queens, and queen h5. When you're attacking, keep the queens on the board. And now knight a4, and this indeed looks incredibly slow, as Grandelius said. But as he also said, he thought it was the best way for white to try and defend the position. Black castled, and the difference of the king positions gives black overwhelming compensation for the sacrificed pawn. That bishop was taken, a takes and queen f2. And here's a picture, a screenshot from the live broadcast. At exactly this moment you see the queen on f2 and it's black to move. We see Jobava on the left and Grandelius on the top right. Back to the game. If white could move again, then he could castle here and all his problems would be over, but Grandelius is preventing it. After queen f2 he played bishop h3, And now the king cannot castle kingside and cannot castle queenside. It is stuck in the middle. Bishop c3, and here knight d5 is stronger, says the engine, with a big advantage for black. Stronger than the move from the game, which was queen to d5, attacking the rook in the corner. You can castle at this moment, but the king is not safe on the queen side, and for starters you're losing that pawn on a2. So after queen d5, rook g1, saving the rook, was Jobava's choice. You can take on d3, that is the best move in this position, and in many variations the queen then retreats to g6 to keep the attack going, but in the game knight f5 was played by Grandelius, and his plan is to give a check. g4, attacking the knight. Black will not react to this attack for the next 4 moves, as we'll see. And there comes that check. King d2, the other rook gets centralized. Black is mobilizing his pieces. And rook a2 e1. You cannot take the knight instead, because then there is queen takes d3 check, king c1 and rook e2, and that wins the queen because of the mate threat on c2. So that's not possible. You can't take the knight, and that's why rook ae1 was played by Jobava. Now Grandelius took on d3, with check, king c1, only move, and he swapped a pair of rooks. Followed by bishop takes g4. Only now does black save his attacked knight on f5. Jobava took on b6, restoring the material balance, and h5, a nice move, supporting the bishop and giving the king some air. Queen hurried back to f2, rook a8, attacking the a-pawn, so a3, and queen c4. Attacking the knight, and knight d4 was played. My engine says knight d2. Grandelius was correct in his interview straight after the game. Jobava has fought back very well in the last 10 moves or so to stay in this game. He played knight d4 as said. Rook went back to d8, changing the point of attack again. And knight takes f5. Bishop takes f5. Black is still better because of his greater piece activity and safer king. But as Grandelius said, white has good chances to hold this position. But the players got low on time. We're on move 31 and the time control was on move 40. Rook d1 and rook d3. And what you have to do here, you have to swap the rooks. Queen takes, and white is still fighting. But here on move 33, Jobava made a mistake. He played rook d2 instead of taking on d3, and he had missed this very nice move. An exchange sacrifice, which is winning for black. Jobava took the rook, and after making this capture, he resigned. He saw that he's going to lose this game. Why did he resign? Let's have a look. You have to take on c3 with check. And if you go to d1, then there is bishop g4 check. If you flee to e1, you get checkmated in 2 moves, like this. This mating variation is not forced, but otherwise white will have to give the exchange back and will end up in a lost queen and pawn endgame. Let me show you an example. After queen takes c3 check, you don't have to go to d1 and get mated. You can play rook c2. That rook is of course attacked by the bishop on f5. Black first takes on a3 with check. If you play rook b2, then there is queen a1 check, king d2, and you lose the rook, so that doesn't work. And if after queen takes a3 check you go to b1 with the king, then there is bishop takes e2 check, queen takes, queen b4 check, king a1, you take the pawn on f4, white can take on c6, but this is a winning queen and pawn endgame for black. So after b takes c3, Jobava resigned. He saw these variations and saw that he would not be able to save this game. Nice entertaining game, good win for Grandelius and a sore loss for Jobava. It's horrible to fight yourself back in a game and then give it all away again with one bad move. These are the standings in the open section after round 4. Alireza Firouzja was the only one with 3 wins out of 3 games. He drew his game in round 4, but he's still in the sole lead. And we have 11 players, half a point behind him. You can see the names there. In the women's section, we have also one leader, that's Lei Jingji from China with 3.5 out of 4. And she has 10 players breathing down her neck on 3 points out of 4 games. Round 5 will be played on Sunday the 31st of October, and I will be here after the round to tell you what happens. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel and please leave a comment. I will read them all and I will reply to them all. If you liked the video, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram, on Twitter and on Facebook. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.